Today's guest has spent over 15 years helping people transform their lives from the inside out. He's the founder of Zoho Coaching and a master of mindset, known for guiding individuals to tap into their untapped potential and manifest the life they truly desire. Jai has worked with everyone from overwhelmed parents and ambitious managers to purpose driven business owners and organizations. Through his unique ability to uncover hidden blocks and align thoughts, emotions, and actions, super important, we're going to dive into that, he's helped people not just visualize success, but achieve it. In this conversation, Jai will walk us through his powerful AAA process, rooted in emotional, mental energy, the surprising force behind shadow values, the 3 checkpoints every goal must pass through the mind, and how to hack your habits for lasting change. He's real, he's results focused, and his mission is simple: to help you create the life you deserve on your terms. Jai Thomas, welcome to Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me, mate.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Let's start with your story. What sparked your passion for mindset transformation and helping others manifest their dream life?
Yeah, I think what started with me, I was always interested with mindset and, growing up in the early 20s and reading books and so forth. And that was kind of an interest and a hobby. And what really transformed for me is that at that younger age, I had a lot of, preconceived ideas of rights and wrongs and got myself into trouble on and off. And a lot of the time it was always blaming the outside, oh, he did this or she did that, so that's why I reacted. And one day, going through some processes, that it just all kind of clicked and fell into place, that it's not the external, it's the internal. And I've always got that choice how to respond. And, you can take it to a far out example, but, so somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're like running late, you just, oh, bloody hell. And then a second car cuts you off and now you're beeping your horn. And then a third car cuts you off and you're getting the road rage and so forth. And I was just like, the third car did exactly like the first car, but why am I reacting different? So all of these little things just kept happening to reinforce that it's not the external, it's the internal. So that's what set me on a trajectory, so to speak.
Right. So you had that insight and that awareness that it was time to look inside, sort some things out there, rather than being at the mercy of their external forces.
Yeah, exactly. And look, in as I mentioned, in the early years, it'd be, you might have been at I'm talking about 20s and so forth. You're at a bar and, imagine if someone threw a drink on you and then you hit them. It's like, well, why'd you hit them? Well, they threw a drink. I couldn't help it. Well, you can help it because you've always still got a choice on how to react. And it was really after reading Man's Search for a Meaning, Viktor Frankl, that really, I suppose, shone some light on that he survived the concentration camps and his family unfortunately didn't. And he came out with, no matter what they do, I still have the choice on how to feel and how to react. And I just thought, wow, if somebody can go through that and come out with that philosophy, there's something to that. And, I started researching all of that information about the mind and action potentials and so forth. So, yeah, and just absolutely love it, passionate about it.
Great. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I've heard that freedom lies between what happens to you and your reaction.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Everyone's got the choice, but a lot of people, I find a lot of people who are getting stressed and feeling overwhelmed, it's majority of it's the external that's happening, and they're not realizing that they've got that choice. They've got those seconds before that they can actually choose in how to react. So that's something that I know has helped me, and I wanted to spread that word, and that's what really started getting me into it.
Well, I know the world is glad that you did and have and are, Jai, because we need as many people educating us about awareness, how to live our best lives, because we don't come onto this earth knowing that. You got to learn it.
Exactly. And one of the other things that really got me passionate about it was that, and I work with males and females, but with males, I found that a lot of males hold in their emotions. They don't want to talk about it as much, and it was something where, well, why is that? And it's been said that 80% of your neural pathways are formed between the age of 0 and 8, and in that, it's, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's rich or poor, but we sort of, anything that happens, we judge it to be above the line or below the line. And I thought, well, a lot of men who are older, middle aged, grew up with being told that they're, are soft or hardened up, they can't cry, they can't show emotion. And then you wonder why people that are my age or thereabouts are having these difficulties. And I really believe it's a lot of that conditioning that's happened in those early ages.
Mm,
So it's about assisting people with that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I did hear a great expression that's stayed with me, which is change is inevitable, growth is optional. So when people choose the growth path, my understanding is that's a path to success and living your best life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that everyone can keep growing. Sometimes people hit spots where they think they know everything. No one knows everything,
Yeah.
and you got to keep learning.
Yeah, you're never done. You're never
Yeah.
done. Now, you've worked with a wide range of people, parents, leaders, organisations, and business owners. What patterns have you seen when it comes to, what holds people back?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people haven't got that clarity. What I've found, and when I work with people, it's about first finding out what that vision is. And surprisingly, a lot of people are a bit fluffy about it. After having years in the corporate world, quite important to have our vision and our mission. And I just thought, well, a lot of who's our priority? The priority is the people. And a lot of people haven't even got that for their own lives. So working with people was about assisting them to uncover what their values are. A lot of people have these, what they think of values that their peers have or their family expect from them, but it's not really aligned to their values. So they've got to align their vision to their values. So that was really the first thing I try and assist people to elicit what they value, and then lining that up to their vision. So that's like the first step that I go through with people.
It makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. First, defining it. Yeah, I can see how that would be the first step. Well, it's a good segue now to talk about the shadow values and goal setting, I guess, because shadow values is not a term that everyone is familiar with. So, can
Yeah.
you talk us through what are they, why are they so powerful when it comes to setting meaningful goals?
Yeah, so I first, I suppose, came across the term shadow values and was trying to understand it, and started deep diving into it, and it was quite empowering and liberating at the same time. And a lot of it's kind of based on what I like to think is the world is full of duality. There's night and day. There's peace and war. There's like one extreme to everything's hot and cold and so forth, wet season, dry season. And what I found is a lot of people have these nice fluffy values that we like to share. I like to look after people, or I like to do this. And it's all the ones that I think that's what we think that people want to hear. And going through on the shadow values, actually identified there's two sides of that coin, and these ones that we don't really admit to. And just to give you one or two as an example, it may be wanting to be in control or wanting attention. And you can always think back to times where people say, "Oh, you're such an attention seeker," little things like that. But it doesn't have to be negative. So the idea with the shadow values is to actually elicit what each person's shadow values are. And there's many shadow values, and basically they all work in a hierarchy like any values. So to give you an example, there might be a person that loves, say, just an example, loves windsurfing, but ideally they prefer spending time with their family, but ultimately they love traveling the world. And whichever one is the higher one is where they'd prioritize. But it's not because they love windsurfing. It's because of the feeling they get back from windsurfing. So that could be a feeling of exhilaration, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling with family could be a sense of belonging and safe. And traveling the world could be a feeling of rebelliousness, or I'll just do whatever I like and travel the world. So those things, by identifying what our shadow values are, I believe is one of the most powerful drivers because of the energy that we're getting from that. And a great example that I love to communicate is about smoking. And everyone would agree that either they've tried or they know someone that's smoked. And if everyone's honest, people don't really, when they first have a cigarette, they don't really love having a cigarette. They absolutely had, snot running out of their nose, tears running out of their eyes, and
Coughing,
they
yeah,
didn't
all the
enjoy
things.
it.
Yep.
But why did they keep doing it? They did it because they wanted to belong, they wanted to
Mm,
fit in, they wanted to
mm,
feel cool, they wanted to feel
mm, mm,
special. So
mm,
those drivers
mm,
actually overrode your central nervous system.
mm,
So I'm
mm,
like, wow, if I'm overriding my central nervous system because giving me the feeling of belonging or being cool is higher, then if I can tap into that and align that to any of my goals and to my vision,
mm,
then that's powerful. So I
mm.
really resonated with that, and I've had some great results with clients when we've gone through that and uncovered their shadow values.
Great. So, what you're really uncovering is the real reason why we do things.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
real reason, not the one we might think maybe in the front of our minds, but when you dive a bit deeper, what is the real reason? And it was great
Yes.
how you said it's really about the feeling as well
Uh,
that you get and the
y-
emotions that you get from
from
that.
that
So you
from
want
that
to do
action.
more. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you want to do more of that action to feel more of that emotion, and that's what's really driving what you do.
exactly. So if for example with the windsurfing, if I was getting that sense of exhilaration, I just love it. I'm going to be out there in the cold because I just love the exhilaration. But if another task came along that I got more exhilaration, then
Mm,
I would naturally just prioritize that and be doing that because I'm getting more exhilaration. So and that's where, and we'll go into it later, but we can also use those for habit hacking as well. So
mm,
yeah,
mm.
it's a fantastic tool and fantastic to know about your shadow value.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I wonder, you listening, if you're thinking about what's really driving your behaviors and what your shadow values are. The smoking analogy is really powerful and can really see how shadow values overrides the logic that it's not really that great for you. Have you got an example or a story where recognizing a shadow value completely changed someone's trajectory?
Oh, absolutely. One of the first ones that came to mind then, John, was a client that I was seeing. This would have been, it was before COVID again. Working with him, it took a little while to work out why he was seeing me, and we'd kind of go through and just chat. And he ended up coming out that he had a massive issue with gambling. He's lost his wife, and his two teenage daughters hardly see him as a result. He's got credit card debts, and he'd actually gone so far that he'd lost the house. In his, I think he had like 12 credit cards that he had a special GPO box, a post office box, so his wife hadn't found out. And then he was using the line of credit in the house. So it absolutely destroyed him.
Mm,
And it was all to do with gambling. And he basically said for the last 22 odd years, he never gambled when he was younger. He only got into it in his mid 30s. And that was just by fluke. He had a meeting at Adelaide Casino and he dropped some money in and he won $10,000 and he was hooked from there. And anyway, he had been to numerous amounts of GA meetings, sought help from many different organisations, and he said he had never gone more than 3 days without gambling. And I just couldn't believe that. He actually said he walked out of the Gamblers Anonymous meetings and walked straight across to a pokey venue. straight after a meeting.
Mm.
So I was working with him to basically identify what his shadow values were, and
Yeah.
in doing that, it was like, well, I was trying to see, well, what are you getting from that? What's the positive that you're getting from gambling? And at that time, it was one of my earlier clients, and at that time, he basically was furious and wanted to hit me, and was like, "Jai, what do you mean? What's the positive? What am I gaining? What's the benefit? There is no benefit. I've destroyed this," and that was true. He had destroyed those things,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there still must have been a reason that he was doing it. And then
Definitely.
from deep diving into that,
Mm.
we actually found out that not only from his wife, but his mother, when he was younger, controlled everything, controlled his money. And then when he got married, his wife controlled the money, so much so that when he did well at work, they were going to have drinks that evening. He had to go home. He actually got some big sale and they wanted to celebrate. And he had to go home and ask for the money. And the wife gave him like $50, which isn't going to last long. And he was just totally embarrassed. And what came out of that, one of the biggest things was him being in control and him isolating himself. And they were the shadow values that we extracted by going through this process. And so what we basically had to do was look at, if that's such a big thing of being in control, when are the other times that you've felt in control? And what we worked out is that he used to go to the driving range and hit the balls. He used to go cycling. He used to ride, like 50-kilometre rides a couple times a week. But none of that was happening, because as soon as something happened, there was a trigger, he would go off and gamble. His daughter wouldn't turn up for the visit, or some depressive trigger reminded him. He'd jump in his car, drive down the freeway, off on the first exit and into the pokie venue. So what we had to put in place is, when that trigger happens, what's a more empowering step that he could actually do? And being a more empowering step, we went through the process where it was, well, when this trigger happens and you want to feel in control, you go down to the golf range, you get 100, 200 balls, and you go and whack those. And we emphasized how much more empowering that is compared to going to the pokies. Now, what's the after effects, and how do you feel after going to the pokies compared to doing the golf? From that session, he did have a relapse, yes, and we worked through it, but he went 133 days from that session. And it just showed me that it really works, and it was incredible.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really great example of the power of it. And so his shadow values were wanting to be in control, was it?
Look, there was a couple. It was a while ago, but I remember control was one of the biggest. And when he said it, because it's not for me to analyse whether it's right or wrong, it's coming from him, and it was all about control. But when he first said it to me, just that word and what I emphasised, I was thinking, how's that control? If you're going to a pokies venue, that means you're out of control. It really shows that when you can't have your own, I suppose, overlay or filter. You can't have your own filter on any of this. And because the process works, you just have to go through the process rather than putting your own filter on. So imagine if I put my own filter on and go, control, what do you mean control? Like it's just, that's ridiculous. So
I see what you mean there. And isn't it fascinating how there's always more to a situation and to life than what we see on the surface? It's still amazing. It's amazing.
And I think that's where it kind of all stems back from that. And you can still learn things, obviously, throughout your life, but that 0 to 8 is really a foundation of, your neural pathways forming, your beliefs, your judgments, and so forth that happen are all in those early years.
Yeah. And it takes something for someone to then want to change. Luckily, that guy reached out to you.
Yes.
Or he was searching, knowing that it was no good. I guess he was in a lot of pain, wanting to get out of that pain somehow, and found a way out through your coaching and going through that process. Amazing story, Jai.
Yeah. And out of that, I think it just gave me such a natural high in itself. Like I was just absolutely pumped. Now, talking about shadow values, what am I getting from that? Well, I'm also getting something a feeling, of exhilaration, but also a feeling of, oh, I know that really works. So maybe a feeling of superiority, whatever it may be. But people have to be vulnerable and open, and they would never admit a shadow value like that to the public. So I think knowing that and using that shadow value of how am I going to get more of this shadow value by achieving these goals is the key.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Reminds me of that expression, we rise by lifting others.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, thanks. I really want to explore this triple A process and emotional mental energy. So you've developed something called the triple A process. Can you walk us through what that is and how it's linked to emotional mental energy?
It was a process I went through. To give you a little bit of background, when my family broke up, my wife and I broke up, and my son was 18 months old. And out of that, and it was my fault, and I felt shame, guilt, depressed, lost friends, and it was all because of my actions and so forth. And what happened through that? How do I explain it? What happened out of that? Really, I'd just beat myself up, and I'd feel like a shit dad. And now I'm only seeing my son 50% of the time, not 100% of the time. And a lot of parents, because of things, may even see their child less. And so the impact that's having to the parents is something that it can be really depressing for that person, and they just continue to beat themselves up. So that was something that I went through, and I went through a process, and from that I slightly tweaked it to this triple A process. And what it is a lot of people and a lot of books even and courses, they kind of go through that. You have to have awareness. You have to have awareness of the situation. And then you get to a point of acceptance. And really, the point of acceptance, I find, is a code word for forgiving. So when people say you got to forgive, and people actually seek forgiveness from people, and I haven't got that forgiveness for something that happened years back in my life, and I'm holding on to it. But then you get to a point and you say, oh, I'll accept it. And all that's saying is, you did wrong by me, but I'm going to try and move on. And then you speak to that person. Let's say they've had a dispute with, I don't know, a family member or a friend, and you say, "Oh, how's that friend going? I've heard everything's all right." Yeah, I forgave them. Oh, yeah. So how are they going? Look, I don't want to talk about it. I forgave them, but I don't want to talk about it. And it's like, okay, this isn't really true healing. And so, in line with bringing it back to self and what you control, you can't control anything outside, was really getting to a point of appreciation. So that's that's what the triple A process stands for. So it's about getting to a state of appreciation, and it's when you can get to that state of appreciation, I believe, is true healing, because your charge with that event has now been equilibrated, and it's back to zero. Rather than being way down here as a way negative. So you might have events in your life, if you look back, that are negative, and you've got positive. And those events that are negative can often be holding you back and robbing yourself. So by equilibrating that is finding positives to equal out that charge.
Yeah,
and
right.
one example about that polarizing that I like to use is that most people that are old enough remember where they were for September 11 with the World Trade Center in the US. Most people remember where they were, who they were with, what they were doing. Now that was over 2 decades ago, and people remember it. I don't remember what I had for lunch last Monday. So it's like, how the hell? So it's about making events in people's lives that have been traumatic, yes, and you can never condone whatever that may be, but it's about making that event last lunch on Monday, so that you eradicate that polarization and that energy about it. And it's powerful. I've seen over 100 people go through it. Phenomenal results.
Oh, magnificent,
Yeah.
magnificent. So the AAA process, if I asked you to summarize it in a sentence, how would you then summarize all of that?
Okay. In a sentence, I would say that the AAA process to have true healing is about getting to a state of appreciation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I loved everything you said about it, and then I thought let's crystallize that
Yeah.
just at the end to summarize it for the listener, which is great, and the watcher. Where do most people go wrong when trying to shift their energy or mindset, do you think?
Yeah, I think most people are, unfortunately, there's really three main resistance points that people come up against.
And we're going to hear exactly what they are in part two. And that wraps up part one of my powerful conversation with Jai Thomas. Today we explored why change starts from within, how your hidden shadow values drive your habits, and why unlocking emotional energy is the key to lasting transformation. How good is Jai? Jai's real-world stories and tools have already given us plenty to reflect on, and that's just the beginning. Next week in part two, we'll go even deeper as Jai reveals the 3 checkpoints every goal must pass through to succeed. He also explains how to hack your habits for real change and shares more of his practical AAA process to help you break free and create a life you deserve. You don't want to miss part two coming up next week, or if you're listening to this a while ago, you can go straight to part two. Make sure you hit follow to join me for part two of this inspiring conversation for greatness with Jai Thomas. Hope you're loving this as much as I'm loving it too. Stay awesome, have a good one, and I'll catch you in part two. Thanks for joining us on Rise and Thrive Conversations for Greatness with John Merkus. Remember, you are loved, you are worthy, and you do matter. Embrace the journey of personal growth and motivation. Let's go out there and do something great. Follow or subscribe for more insights and inspiration every Tuesday. Until next time, stay awesome.